Once in a while, an author comes around who makes me remember why I became a reader in the first place. I'm talking about the authors who, when I pick up a book that they've written, or maybe it's my first time with a book, that's all I want to do is read. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to listen to music. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to get in a comfy chair in my bed and I want to read. I usually am yapping endlessly about books on this channel, but today I thought I'd switch it up a little bit and talk about these authors. There's no shortage of authors whose works I want to read, so I had to implement some pretty strict rules for this video so that it was still sane and reasonable. I'm only going to talk about 7 authors today. I'm going to tell you one book that if you have not read anything from this author, I think you should start with this book, either because it's my favorite or it's the best introduction into their work, but we won't really be going through specific plot or anything. So the rules. First and foremost, the author has to be alive and currently working. Some of them are working more than others, but working nonetheless and technically active. The second rule is I have to have read at least 2 books from an author who's made it onto this list. I didn't realize that I was kind of promiscuous in the literary sense until I was putting this video together. The last rule, so to speak, is I am going to immediately purchase the book. I don't love hardback, but I will buy the hardback. I can't wait for the paperback. That's how much I love them. That's how much I want to read the book. It will become my new obsession, my priority. I gotta read the book. Sorry if my stomach is growling. I haven't eaten lunch, but I have had like 4 coffees today. Let's start off with one of my absolute favorite authors of all time will always be Emily St. John Mandel. I love this woman. I think she is flawless. Although she writes with a literary sensibility, there's a lot of science fiction in her books, and I wouldn't describe myself as a science fiction lover, but she really made me feel like I could be. The book I think you should start with, if you have not read anything from her, is Station 11. I've talked about this book before. It is not only my favorite book that she's written, it is one of my favorite books of all time. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous book about survival in the face of absolute chaos and tragedy. It's about the beauty and resilience of the arts and finding the beauty in despair. This is the entry point into not a trilogy necessarily, but 2 other books, The Glass Hotel and The Sea of Tranquility. They're all these interconnected worlds. So her world building is also quite skillful. She is about to come out, well, not about to, in a year or so, she's coming out with a new book. I can't remember the title of it. I'm pretty sure I gasped if I didn't scream. I'm so excited for it. She just makes me happy. She makes me believe in the good. That is so cheesy, but it is so true. I love her. Love, 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 love her. Moving in a totally different direction, the next 2 on the list are very similar, though kind of 2 sides of the same coin. You'll see what I mean. Let's start with S.A. Cosby. I have Blacktop Wasteland here. The book that I actually think you should start with is Razorblade Tears. I read that book a few years ago now, and I have now read every single book that S.A. Cosby has published, and it remains my favorite. I don't know what I did with the cover. I feel like when I read Razorblade Tears, it invigorated my love for thrillers and mysteries and kind of like gritty crime dramas. I have really always been a big fan of thrillers, but if you are also, you know that they can start to feel really predictable. When I finally picked up Razorblade Tears, it was just a breath of fresh air. And I loved his writing. It was so cinematic. You feel like you're watching a movie when you're reading his work. Most of his characters are Black men, and some tragedy has occurred in their life. I think most, if not all, of his books take place in Virginia, which I believe is where he's from. So yeah, there's a real kind of like Southern quality. There's a heat to everything. There is this natural grittiness to the story. I'm so invested in his characters. At this point, he has more than earned my trust, even when I don't love a book of his, which was true of the last one he published earlier this year. I still really enjoyed it, and 100% auto-buy author for me. I will never miss one from him. I hope my little light here isn't distracting. It's just new and I wanted to use it, so sorry. I'll turn it off because it's actually kind of bothering me. There we go. The next one probably needs no introduction on this channel. She is a writer, I feel like in the same vein as S.A. Cosby, but make S.A. Cosby a woman and make him Irish, and you have Miss Tana French. Tana French is another crime mystery thriller, but she has a real literary angle to her. She is another one who, when I read her books, I feel like I am getting all of the things that I love about both literary fiction and thrillers and mysteries, all in this evocative package. She writes like she is painting a landscape and you can just step into it. Like, do you remember Mary Poppins where they got to like step into the pictures? That's what it feels like. She like allows you to step into this really quiet, kind of desolate Irish countryside. All of these people know each other. They've known each other their whole lives. There's all of these underlying tensions and resentments and little conflicts, but it's so atmospheric to me, but in a really, really quiet way. And I think most people would say to start with her Dublin Murder Squad series. I did read In the Woods. I did enjoy it. It's just that I love The Searcher. The Hunter is the follow-up to The Searcher. This will be a trilogy, I believe, so I can't wait until the third book comes out. I am so in love with this series. If that book comes out when Emily St. John Mandel's come out, my brain might explode. Okay, next, this person definitely needs no introduction on this channel. I feel like I've managed to publish a few videos without mentioning him, but here we are again. It is David Sedaris. If you don't know who David Sedaris is, he is a humor essayist. He is really prolific. One of the best things about him, and there's many, is that he also likes to do book tours and he'll go all over the world. He does travel a lot within the United States and he's really engaging. My husband and I went to see him a few years ago in Portland. And another thing about him is that he will spend a lot of time with people, signing their books and chatting with them. I've always been too intimidated to do that. Well, I only saw him the one time, but I was too intimidated then to do it. But I'm sure it would be an unforgettable experience. He is so witty. He has a really dry sense of humor, so he's not for everyone. And most of his essays are drawing on his life experiences. So a lot of them have to do with his relationship, with his family. He's very observational, but with a kind of a subversive eye. And the way he sees the world is very unique. I just laugh out loud whenever I read his books. He's become like a comfort author for me. If I'm going through a hard time, if I'm nervous or anxious or whatever, I pop on a David Sedaris book because he also narrates his own audiobooks. I have both written books and I have the audio, and both work really well. The one I would suggest starting with is Me Talk Pretty One Day. This is the first one that I read. I think this is just one of the best introductions into David Sedaris. He has a couple more recently that are really good. I love them. They're just maybe not the best first books to read if you're curious about him and haven't read him yet. He just puts a smile on my face and makes me happy to know that there are people like him in the world. Okay, had to go to the other bookshelf to get this next book. The next one on this list, anybody who's consumed BookTube in the last, 5 or 6 years is well familiar with the name Donna Tartt. She's like the Fiona Apple of the literary world, and if you don't know who Fiona Apple is, or you didn't really pay any attention to her career after her first album. She's one of my favorite musicians of all time, but she releases a new album. I feel like we're like once a decade now. It just gets longer and longer between her albums. And Donna Tartt is kind of a similar fashion. I believe she has 3 published books. I have read 2 of them. The Goldfinch is the first one that I read, and then I read The Secret History. I have The Secret History right here with me. My suggestion, start with The Secret History. It is the textbook, basically, of dark academia fiction, which is why I feel like everybody knows who Donna Tartt is. If you're on BookTube, you basically couldn't get away from her, I feel like, about 3 or 4 years ago, but for good reason. Donna Tartt writes in a very academic way. Sometimes her prose is a little bit flowery, I guess, but she gets away with it because she crafts such an atmospheric story. The characters are really well drawn, and even though the Goldfinch, for instance, It wasn't my favorite, and it was a long book, and I remember having mixed feelings about it, but I was so compelled to read it. It was really compulsively readable. I just didn't want to do anything else but read that book, and the same was true for The Secret History. The Secret History wins because I just liked the story better ultimately, and I definitely remember gasping and like sitting up straight when I got to a certain part. If you've read this book, you know which part I'm talking about. That's hard to do for me. So she's one partly because of the fact that she doesn't work as much, that I would be really compelled to just run out and buy whatever she publishes next. The same is actually true for George R. R. Martin, but he's not on this list because I'm mad at him, and I have been mad at him for years now because he just utterly refuses to write and now publish The Winds of Winter. We have two left. The next one is Jesmyn Ward. She is sort of in the same vein, I would say, as Donna Tartt. It's also academic, maybe a little bit more lyrical, and she writes usually from the perspective of a Black female character, at least from what I recall. It's been a minute since I've read one of her books. I would suggest starting with Salvage the Bones because she does write in a very lyrical way, and I feel like the more I've read, the more it feels like abstract it gets. And so if you're a person who does need to be introduced to an author by their plot, basically, I mean, how well can they tell a story? I feel like Salvage the Bones is the best, though I love Sing Unburied Sing as well, and I don't think you could really go wrong. My instinct is that Salvage the Bones might be the better first pick. Her stories are almost allegorical in nature because she is writing, gosh, it's almost dreamlike in the way that she writes, but the subject matter or the themes of her novels are very raw and realistic. I feel like she is a person who sees ugly things in a really beautiful way, and she is able to convey that. And I feel like it gives me hope. To give hope to a reader amid really desperate, despairing situations is a gift that I believe she has very few peers working at her level. For our last author today, I've kind of forgotten about him because it's been a while since he's published a book, though I did see he is still technically actively writing and he is dedicated full-time to his writing. Khaled Hosseini. He wrote The Kite Runner, A Thousand Splendid Suns, and The Mountains Echoed. I read all three of them. It's just been a really long time. If you were going to start with a book, if you didn't read this one yet, I would start with The Kite Runner, though it is a real toss-up between this one and A Thousand Splendid Suns. Since it has been a minute since I've read these books or since he's published anything, it's hard for me to describe exactly, but let me put it this way. I have never cried so much as when I read The Kite Runner and A Thousand Splendid Suns. I remember weeping. The stories that are being told, they are so unfiltered. And because of who the author is, it feels very authentic. It's like devastating, but in a beautifully haunting way that will stay with you for the rest of your life. Those experiences, those books, there's a reason I'm putting them last, and it's not just because he hasn't published in a long time. They probably have had the biggest emotional punch to me, and I would be utterly thrilled to see another book from this man. He is a beautiful writer, and the way that he's telling the story of Afghanistan, where he's from, is, I think, a priceless gift that he can give to a country and group of people who it seems are voiceless in a lot of ways. The book at parts is really hard to read, so if you're the kind of person who needs to check trigger warnings, please do that for both books. There's a lot of violence in these books, really disturbing things involving children. It's not for the faint of heart. That feels like I was ending on kind of a bummer, which wasn't my intention. I really love those books, and I think that you should read them if you haven't. That is the end of this video. That is the end of this list. It can definitely change within a matter of weeks or months, depending on who I'm able to get to. I can totally see Percival Everett being on this list. I just purchased another book by Ruthie Thorpe, who I had not stopped talking about her at the beginning of this year. Elena Ferrante is probably another one. Ian McEwan's another one that I can totally see myself he's still writing and he's 77 years old. So that's kind of amazing. Let me know if you have any auto-buy authors. You know, if there's somebody that you absolutely love, you don't care, you don't need to read the book jacket, you're just going to buy the book. I would love to know who those people are for you. I'm always happy to add to my list. If you like this video, if you have checked out my other ones and you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more from me. It really does help the video, but more for me. I will know that you guys liked it and still are enjoying these sit down style videos, which I am mixing right now with more like reading vlog content. That's it for me today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!